Well, we're so glad to be back. Mrs. Murray, she taught a great lesson last week. I hope you all watched it. And this week we have another wonderful lesson taken from a parable or the story that Jesus told. But first, you might be wondering, why does Mr. Peter have an empty Yoo-hoo bottle in front of him? And what's that on the top?
It's like matchsticks, Miss Kathy.
Matchsticks. Well, what's that all about?
I think I'm going to play a little game.
You're going to tell us later?
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well, you'll have to watch all the way through then to find out what's going on with the Yoo-hoo bottle. And hopefully you're also watching Pastor Jerome today with your families. He's teaching a wonderful message from the book of Colossians. And there's one verse in the passage he's chosen that kind of ties in to our own lesson. It goes like this. He, which is God, is before all things, and in him, who is God, all things hold together. So what does that mean, to all things hold together? What do you think that means, Mr. Peter?
Well, things are in control and God is in control.
Yes, he's talking about that God is a God of order, not of chaos. Just think about the entire universe. The galaxies, the planets, the stars, our own world turning every day, the way our sun comes up in the morning. Where does it come up, Mr. Peter?
Comes up in the east.
Right, and then it goes down every night. Where does it go down?
Over the ocean, which would be the west.
The west, that's right. And our moon, every month, without fail, we have a full moon and a new moon. We have 4 seasons every year, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The beaches and shores around the world have high tides and low tides every single day. There's an order and a design, and the whole of creation depends upon God to hold it all together so nothing spins out of control. Creation does what God tells it to do. It is under his authority. So what about us? I mean, we're part of creation, aren't we? So why does it often seem as if our personal world is spinning out of control? Plenty of that these last few months. So what can we do to stop the madness that sometimes seems to invade our lives, either bringing it on ourselves or just from outside circumstances, and we can't help it? Are we just supposed to depend on ourselves to figure it all out? What do you think? No, I don't think so. The parable we're going to look at shows us exactly what we must do, and more importantly, who we must trust to guide us through the twists and turns of our lives. This parable is part of an amazing sermon that Jesus taught during his ministry. Do you know which sermon I'm talking about? Yes?
Sermon on the Mount, Miss Kathy.
The Sermon on the Mount. We find it in the Gospel of Matthew. Yes, in this sermon, Jesus teaches us all kinds of things about loving our enemies, giving to the needy, how to pray, the role and proper way to handle money in our lives. It's all fantastic advice on how to live and what the kingdom of heaven will look like. But he also warns us not to take these words lightly or pretend to obey them. Can you guess which parable it is? Do you know?
You tell us, Miss Kathy.
I'll tell you. It's the parable of the wise builder and the foolish builder, and I'm going to read it. Jesus said, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." And when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. Do you remember the song that goes with that story?
I think we do, Miss Kathy.
We do. Why don't we try and sing it? We'll try something new this week, and let's do a song. I wish we had Miss Terry and Miss Dara here to do the hand motions, but we'll do it as best we can. So join in with us, because I'm pretty sure you know the song. Are you ready?
Let's do it, Miss
Are
Kathy.
are we on key?
I doubt it, Mrs. Kathy.
Okay, I doubt it either, but we'll try. All right. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came tumbling down. And the rains came down,
and the floods came up.
and the rains came down,
and the floods came up.
and the rains came down,
and the floods came up.
and the house upon the rock stood firm. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. And the rains came down,
and the floods came up.
and the rains came down,
and the floods came up.
and the rains came down,
and the floods came up.
and the house upon the sand fell flat. Well, that wasn't so bad.
No, Miss
Oh,
Kathy, you did quite well.
we got through. All right. So how many of you love to go to the beach? I mean, we do. We do. And one of our favorites is Oceanside Harbor. And how many of you have built sandcastles while you're there? They're really fun to build. But what do you do with them once they're finished? Well, usually you jump on them and knock them down. Or a wave comes in unexpectedly and washes them away. Gone in an instant. But compare that to the jetties on each side of the beach. Have you ever walked out to the end of all the way to the end of them? They're huge rocks that don't move, even when the biggest wave crashes against them. It's amazing to stand there and watch. And while you might have to look out for the waves, you don't have to worry that the rocks will ever give way. And that's the point that Jesus is making in this parable. Who are we going to choose as our rock? Whose words are we going to listen to? And who can we depend upon when everyone else lets us down? Who might that be? Well, it's God, of course. In the last lesson we looked at King David. And in some of his psalms, he spoke of God being his personal rock. So here's a few. O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. That's from Psalm 19. He set my feet on a rock. Psalm 40. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Psalm 61. David knew that God was his sure foundation, one that would never fail or give way. And he is our rock. He's our peace, he's our salvation, our comfort, our provider, and our protector. He holds it all together. And as we build our faith on the foundation of that rock, trusting that it will never wobble or fall, we find we can weather the waves and the storms of life. Well, how do we build that faith? What do you think, Mr. Peter?
Miss Kathy, how do we build that faith?
We do. How do we build it? Well, we read his word, the Bible. We learn the lessons that Jesus taught. And most importantly, we put them into practice. Just like he said in the parable, the wise man will put these words, not just hear them, but put them into practice. Well, Mr. Peter, you've been building up your matchstick tower here, right?
Yes, Miss
It's
Kathy.
getting quite tall, really. But how sturdy is it? I mean, if I was to tap the bottle, would it go down?
Tap it, Miss Kathy. Go ahead and tap it. I know.
I don't know. It's wobbling a bit.
No, I don't think so, Miss Kathy.
All right. Well, what if there was a wind that came by and just blew it down? You think it might happen?
Yeah. Miss Kathy, I wasn't ready for that.
Whoops. Well, it wasn't that sturdy after all, was it? But look at it. What kind of a foundation is that? It's really small and there's a hole in the middle. How could you ever depend on that to last?
I guess it didn't, Miss Kathy.
It didn't. Well, do you want to see what I built my house on?
Let's take a look at it, Miss Kathy.
Here we go.
Look at that.
I built my house on a rock.
Wow.
See, this is heavy, it's sturdy, can't blow it down,
No.
can't tip it over, Can't shake it. It's firm. It's on a firm foundation. So who are you going to choose to be your rock in the days and the weeks and the months and the years ahead? I never knew that the song we just sung had a third verse, but here it goes. So build your life on Lord Jesus Christ, and the blessings will come down. The blessings come down as your prayers go up, so build your life on the Lord. And Isaiah the prophet, I think, put it best when he said, trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord is the rock eternal. All right. That's another lesson.
That's it, Miss Kathy?
That's it. We've got some matchsticks to clear up. But we hope you all have a wonderful week and sing some songs. Remember to stand on the rock of Jesus and to love each other. And we will see you next time. In the meantime, take care.
Oh, Miss Kathy, you didn't talk about fire, Miss Kathy. Oh, great Scott, Miss Kathy.
It's the fire of the Lord.
Ah!
Bye, everybody.